Well, hi everyone. There's a topic I just wanted to discuss titled Four Secrets to Self Forgiveness If You Grew Up in an Unforgiving Family. A lot of my audience and a lot of my viewers grew up in dysfunctional families, toxic families, narcissistic families, alcoholic families, very dependent families, very enmeshed families, families in which there were toxic divorces, abandonment, and many kinds of struggles that way. This topic, I think, is important because so many people that I've talked to over the years, and I have talked to a lot of people over 45 years, probably thousands. And one of the things they have struggled with consistently has been self forgiveness. And I felt the same way as well. I did not understand self forgiveness. I did not understand what that truly meant. And I certainly did not know how to do it. So, we're going to be talking about self forgiveness. And if you've had a struggle with that, continue to watch. I've got some secrets for you that I'll bet at least a couple of them you may not have thought about. And I think that could be a help to you. I first want to mention the online program that I now have up, which is Your New Road to Self, kind of a culmination of my 45 years, putting it into 6 modules with exercises and tools. You can find that on my website, Jerry Wise Relationship Systems, or I think there are some links down below that we'll be putting on there as well. What I found is that people who have worked with me have made, I've found, more progress more quickly and have saved money in the long run, particularly in terms of therapy, coaching, counseling. And so I feel my program and my perspective, my methods are cost effective. And then let me talk about one other thing, which is the training that I have up, Build the Real Self You Were Never Allowed to Have. Totally free. Click on the training, go watch it. No obligation, nothing required from you, other than I think an email or something, just so you can get the program. First of all, we all have to choose between self hate or unforgiveness of self versus self acceptance, self love, and self forgiveness. People ask me so many times, how do I forgive myself? And in my experience of a long, long time, we often ask not the best questions. And we will ask how questions when it actually is a when question. It's not how do you forgive yourself, it's when will you choose to forgive yourself? And it's a when question. Now, please don't misunderstand me, or please don't think it's just a matter of flipping a coin, though, believe it or not, it is. It is just a matter of flipping a coin. It is just a matter of turning a switch. But there's a lot goes into turning that switch. I do want to say that there can be a lot going into doing that. But it's like somebody asking me, okay, Jerry, I want you to show me how to breathe. Well, you take air in your mouth and take it into your lungs and blow it back out and then take in some more. I mean, or teach me how to breathe. Just start doing it. I mean, and so many times we will ask the how questions. How do I forgive myself? Or people will say, how do I stop hating me? The way to stop hating you is to stop hating you. Sounds simple, but it may not be easy because it is a when. When am I going to forgive myself? When am I going to stop hating myself? I understand we've had years, decades, or complete childhoods that have included hating ourselves or not forgiving ourselves, taking on the blame, feeling the shame and guilt, there is no forgiveness, and particularly in non-forgiving families, especially when they're shaming and guilt tripping, then we internalize and incorporate that as to how we treat ourselves. So I think becoming aware that we have learned that, and that's a pattern, but then getting actually to the when am I going to start forgiving myself? Didn't say it's easy, but it is simple. And so we do have to deal with that truth. That can happen when you're ready to do it. And it doesn't take a whole lot of how. It doesn't take a whole lot of methods, 3 steps to forgiving yourself and or 12 step. No, it's a matter of when you're ready. You have a right to not be ready. And what I mean by that is if you grew up in a dysfunctional family and you grew up for many years in an unforgiving family and you grew up believing you should not be forgiven and people weren't forgiving in your family, and many dysfunctional families are not forgiving, then you internalize the not forgiving and then carry that over into your adulthood, and your inner self does not match your adult self, and it continues to be unforgiving of you. In other words, you can't make a mistake, can't mess up. And certainly I've made enough mistakes that I've had to learn, or not had, didn't have to. I chose to learn self-forgiveness because I have done enough mistakes in my life that I knew I was going to have to deal with that. And of course, particularly if you've done shameful things, then, oh, well, then I don't deserve forgiveness at all from myself, which is just the opposite is actually true. We'll come to that in a moment. So the first secret is self-forgiveness is a choice. It doesn't take a manual. It doesn't take 5 books you have to read. If you have to read 5 books, then go ahead. That's fine. And if you're not ready to forgive yourself, I would recommend you do this. And I'm not shaming you for not being ready to forgive yourself. I know how it feels to not be ready to forgive yourself. So if you don't forgive yourself, then start out with, I am not ready to forgive myself. And say that 100 times a day. As you begin to accept yourself and accept that you're not ready to forgive yourself, it has a paradoxical effect because you're accepting yourself in your non-forgiveness, which is a paradox, which means you're loving and caring about yourself in your unforgiveness or unreadiness. And again, you may be unready because of all that you've been through for all of your life. And it may not be something that you could escape with so much unforgiveness that you grew up with. So the first thought is self-forgiveness is a choice. Am I ready to make that choice, or am I not ready to make that choice? I need to think about that. If I'm not ready, you're okay. If you're ready, you're okay. Either way, you're okay. And we don't want to judge and shame ourselves for where we're at and say, Jerry said I may not be ready, and that was okay. I'm going to accept myself, as he mentioned, in not being ready while you're starting to be ready as you're accepting yourself. Because self-acceptance is kind of a beginning of self-forgiveness, just to accept yourself. So it has a nice way of messing with our head in a positive way. Notice I didn't say, I'll never be able to forgive myself. I'll never want to forgive myself. I never said use that statement. I said, I'm not yet ready to forgive myself, or I am not ready to forgive myself. That's a statement of fact. It's not a shaming statement that's negative or positive. It just is. And I'm going to continue to say that until as I begin to say it more and more, then self-forgiveness actually can start to happen. And that's what I found when we have these knots going on in our heads. Number two, self-forgiveness does not absolve you from responsibility, but it releases you from self-punishment. No different than if I forgive someone else. It doesn't absolve them from their responsibility. It allows me to let it go and to let them go. But it doesn't mean they don't have responsibility for the wrongs that they have done, no different than I. If I forgive myself, it doesn't mean I haven't done the wrong doesn't happen anymore or it never happened. No, it did happen. I was wrong. I made the mistake. I made a poor choice. I am responsible for that. But it does release me from the self-punishment. Early in our life, we got family punishment and the emotional field punishment, the way the Wi-Fi was in the family. And we would get their ire for our mistakes, stupid things we've done. And we've all done stupid things. We've all done immoral things. We've all done insensitive things. I mean, if you're human, I imagine now we're for all human, we're going to violate or hurt other people or do things that would be warranted for forgiveness. But it releases us from self-punishment. I don't have to keep punishing myself. And so when someone comes to me after, let's say I've forgiven myself. Let's say I know one of the things that I remember I felt really kind of attacked and hurt when I was a pastor because I had some folks who were very negative and acting kind of immaturely and were projecting their own abusive family situation onto me. I was still pretty immature and didn't know how to handle it very well. And so I would take it personally. I would feel shamed. I would feel, I got reactive. And then I would start talking badly about them to, let's say, other elders or other deacons or leaders or whatever. And it's like, and I truly felt bad about doing that because that's, even though they were wrong, two wrongs don't make a right. They're over there talking about me and trashing me. I'm over here maybe saying more of the truth, but I'm still trashing them, you know. And it's like, this is not healthy. This is not normal. And so I feel badly about that. So when things got reconciled and when I felt more strength and less pinged and less reactive, after going through some healing and things like that, then I could go and say, hey, to the folks who were giving me a hard time, I think unnecessarily, it was their own family of origin stuff. I would say, well, I think, I do think what you did was wrong, but I also know what I did was wrong. I can't apologize for you. I can only apologize for me. And I regret saying those things. I regret doing those things. Now, I no longer have to punish myself for doing those things, but I'm still responsible for doing those things. So if I then start interacting with some of the people I talk to about those issues, I may need to do some cleaning up or making amends, or, I'm still responsible. Or if somebody says 10 years later, didn't you do that to, Betty and John? I'm still responsible. Yes, I did. That is what I did. That was not a proud moment of mine. That was not a good experience for me. I'm sure not for them as well. There were lots of extraneous circumstances going on, but I did do that, and that was wrong. So I'm still responsible, but I don't have to beat myself up and keep punishing myself for that. So that's what's helpful about self-forgiveness. Number three, self-forgiveness is more likely to keep you from repeating your bad actions versus unforgiveness. So many people, if I were to ask them, if I waved a magic wand and you totally forgave yourself right now, what would be a downside? And let me tell you, may have guessed some of those things it might be, but one of them is I would fear doing it again. And so I keep this unforgiveness going so I won't do it again. I know that's how I felt. I didn't forgive me because I thought that'll keep me on the straight and narrow. And actually, really what it does is it keeps you in a more dangerous situation of repeating it again. A lack of self-forgiveness, you're more likely to be reactive, make mistakes, even the same mistakes. Whereas true self-forgiveness, you are probably less likely to do those behaviors again. Probably much less likely because you have internalized the problem in a healthy way, forgiven yourself, take full responsibility, and move on with your life. You are probably less likely to repeat those behaviors. Whereas if you keep yourself in jail in unforgiveness, you're going to try to break out, and you'll break out by repeating the mistakes again. And I've just seen that over 45 years. It's just been a truth that I've seen happen time and time again because people, well, I don't want to forgive myself because I don't want to forget what I did. Well, don't forget what you did, but forgive yourself. Well, I need to take responsibility for what I did. Take responsibility for what you did and forgive yourself. And as I mentioned, what are the downsides? And I mentioned one of them because I'll repeat this. If I forgive myself, then I'll repeat this. I will not learn the lesson that I needed to learn. If I forgive myself, then I'm applying, in some ways, cheap grace to me. I'll just forgive me and just go on and do it again. If I forgive myself, then I'm more worried about me than I am of other people in terms of caring about other people, that I'm more self-centered or narcissistic. And all of these downsides they're true and they're real, but they're false and they're kind of baloney. But they do keep us in, I don't want to forgive myself because, well, and if I forgave myself, what if these people whom I gossiped about were to see me acting happy, fulfilled, normal, forgiven? What would they think if they saw me that way? Who cares what they would think if they saw you that way? I'm fully willing to take responsibility for what I did at any time. And that's why, if there have been affairs that have happened within marriages, let's say a husband, it's common, but not just husbands have affairs, so do wives. But a husband has an affair, come back, it was his only affair, it was totally inappropriate. He was wrong, and he wants to try to work it out with his wife if she's willing. And so one of the difficulties is unforgiveness gets in the way of healing a relationship. If I hate myself and never forgive myself regarding having an affair, then I will never have one again. When in actuality, if you don't forgive yourself, if you don't choose to love yourself in a healthy way, then you probably will have another affair. So it's not the unforgiveness that keeps you safe. Unforgiveness does not keep you safe. Self-hate does not keep you safe. Anger does not keep you safe. And a lot of people, we've been taught that those should do that. And, if I just stay angry with them all the time, then I won't be hurt. No, you'll be hurt all the time now. I mean, number one, there's no guarantee against getting hurt. But I can at least guarantee you won't be hurt all the time if you give up your anger. You still could get hurt, but you're not. If you're angry all the time, then you're getting hurt all the time if you don't give up that anger. Because anger is something just stays in there and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And always pops up his head and really causes a real difficulty. Number 4, a lack of self-forgiveness may be a carryover from the family super self and the family Wi-Fi. And I think I've already implied or suggested this, that lack of self-forgiveness. Where did you learn to not forgive yourself? Ask yourself that question so you can go back and ask, where did I learn to not forgive myself? Well, first of all, there was never any forgiveness at home. Nobody said, you're forgiven. Nobody said, that's okay. You're imperfect. We still love you. But that wasn't going on. And also, if I felt a lack of self-forgiveness or if I had self-disdain, what I find in dysfunctional families is parents didn't intervene in that. It's so normal for them that why would they intervene? Because it's probably normal for them growing up and normal in the family now. But if you have that self-disdain, self-hate, unforgiveness, parents just didn't deal with that. They never said, oh, well, that's not good. We need to talk about that. And dysfunctional parents and families don't recognize that as a red flag. They don't recognize that it's something that should be addressed with their children. They just, because they do the same thing with themselves. So you're just doing what they do for themselves, and it's all normal. It's all just normal. So we're not going to intervene in that. Whereas in healthy families, a parent would intervene if they see a child being too hard on themselves or being self-disdaining, unforgiving, depressed, or just feel like a failure. And a healthy parent would intervene in that. Go, oh, we need to take a look at this. So I think looking back at your family Wi-Fi, looking back at your family super self, and speaking of the super self, I spend at least an entire module in the online program that I have that I would suggest you to go take a look at and read about, that's on the family super self and how it works so that you can use it today and use that understanding to free yourself from the dysfunctional family you have or had. I hope you found this video helpful. I want to introduce you to my new step-by-step program designed to help you break free from the toxic relationship dynamics in your family, to heal your relationships, and build the real self you were never allowed to have. I personally wish I would have had access to a program like this early in my own journey. This program is an investment in yourself, your relationships, your healing, and your life. To learn more about the program, click on the program link below provided in the description. I truly believe it will have a profound effect on your life.